What you're seeing here is a new experience, because before Mahindra South Africa could provide me with an opportunity to be in this car, I don't remember being in a Mahindra car that is in motion. Whether as a passenger or as a driver, I just can't find that memory. If it's there in my hard drive somewhere, it's probably encrypted and I don't have the password. But I think the biggest question is, what did I think of Mahindra before I got into this one? And whether my perspective has changed since I did almost 1,000 kilometers in this unit. But before we jump into that, welcome to the channel. It's Iwo behind the camera, and I appreciate that you're here with me today. Alright, so we have a lot to talk about, but I want us to leave the brochure stuff for later. And now we're going to focus on this new experience. So since I picked up this car at the beginning of the test period, I've been using it every day. Even forgot that I have my own car. It's probably out there gathering dust and cobwebs and all those things. We'll see it after though. I took this car around the block just to go get bread or whatever. If I wanted to go shopping, urban driving, short distance driving, long distance driving, even took it to gravel, which I didn't plan on initially. But I thought, you know what, I was there with the EcoSport, which is in the same segment. I just want to see how then it's going to fare compared to that one. So we're going to be talking about experience in that sense. Then we're going to be focusing on what this car offers in terms of features, how it looks and so on. Yeah, and all those nice things in the marketing brochure. So on the day of collection, I went to Mahindra SA head office to pick up the car. So I got to the office, went through security, and now as I was walking into the building, I met Dimo from 4WheelZA. You must check out his stuff, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, even here on YouTube, he has a channel as well. And as we were going in, we were busy chatting about cars and so on, about this one, because he was also coming to collect the same car for test as well. And as we were walking in and chatting about the car, I realized that I'm just so curious. I'm not overexcited or anything, but I'm curious as to what is it that I'm going to be experiencing today. So we get to admin, the lady there is helping us to fill in the forms. We do that, then they give us the keys. By the time I put the key in my hand, I realized, okay, this is a quality key. You know, it's heavy and it looks like quality. And believe me, that adds to the experience. So we finished with admin stuff. We went down to the parking lot, walked to the car, I opened the car, and immediately I get in, I am disappointed. You know, this was not a first time hit for me. Remember, this is my first experience, as pure as it can get. I haven't been influenced by anything, by how it sounds, how it drives, anything. I just looked at it, touched it by the door panels, looked at the screen, looked at the aircon controls, and I wasn't wowed by the design at all. That was already making me doubt whether this was going to be a pleasant test experience. Okay, enough with the disappointment, because either way I have to drive and test it. And that's where influence started. Because if you had to ask me on a normal day, what do you think of a Mahindra, and I close my eyes, I'll be like, it's rough, it's tough. You probably want it to do functional stuff, to do the work, and not something that I would want to live with on the road and so on. But when I started shifting gears now, I started getting this satisfaction just from the gears, even before anything else, you know, just to move it from gear 2 to gear 3 to gear 4. It feels so smooth, it goes in so nicely. Like, I started getting this level of satisfaction that started influencing me. Whatever I had in mind, it was starting to shift now. Then keep driving, get to the highway, change down, punch it. Hey, what the hell is in here? I'm asking myself, what is happening? Because I didn't expect this. Look, we've all read brochures before. We've looked at cars being advertised. We've listen to people on their marketing campaigns and so on, and they give us numbers, they give us big numbers, and you get into a car, you get there, it feels heavy, you're like, I can feel it has this amount of torque, and the way it sounds a little heavy and so on. But these 300 Newton meters of torque, 86 kilowatts, this diesel engine is good. This is where the influence now is going to the roof, because when you're on the highway, it doesn't struggle. It like, there is no struggle. I'll call it effortless. I'll just say it's effortless, because once you go into all the gears, like 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 6, it settles down. Now it's time for you to just manage the speed based on the people that are in front of you on the highway and so on. You just basically whether it goes down to 80, putting it back to 120 is not the most difficult thing to do. You don't even need to change down whatsoever. And it's not going to be noisy. I mean, it settles down at around 2000 RPM at around 120, 2000, between 2000 and 2.5, which is not loud. When you're thinking about the in-cabin noise from the engine as well, it's not loud at all. That alone created a lot of difference in how I'm seeing this car. And I'm glad that feeling did not just evaporate over the test period, because it kept on giving and giving. I did a lot of highway driving because it felt so enjoyable. When you're on the highway and you feel like I'm not overworking and I'm driving a manual, it feels so nice, man. I mean, when you're thinking automatic would have been changing down and making that noise, and in here you just put your foot down, let it just give you that little bit of table leg, and then it kicks in, you're out, you're gone. I mean, the way it was just pushing through, I was so impressed. I don't want to lie. This engine is so impressive. This transmission is so impressive, especially on high gears. I'm mentioning high gears carefully, like 4, 5, and 6, because I do have some reservations when it comes to lower gears. And let's head to town to talk more about that. When driving around the neighborhood like this, the joy that you get on the open road and the highway is diluted. And one of the main contributors is the clutch braking point. I feel like it's quite high. To balance this car, you have to lift your foot quite higher than I prefer. And that for me can be tiring, because then your foot is just hanging in the air for quite some time. When you find yourself in a situation where you are stuck in traffic, you're doing a lot of stop and goes, that's where I'm not enjoying it much. And also contributing to that is the gears. The lower gears in here are quite short, like from 1 to 2 to 3. Yeah, you feel like this car is working hard at those gears. It's working harder than at higher gears. It has a lot of torque, which I feel like it's coming in at gear 4, but on gear 1 and 2 and 3, when you're just saying, moving from 0 to 60, trying to move as quick as possible, it's not nice, because by the time you get to gear 2, gear 3, when you get to around 60 kilometers per hour, it's making an uncomfortable noise that it's ready for gear 4 already. I feel like they could have pulled them a little longer. At least then it can be able to just fit in the torque even at lower gears, which is something that I'm not experiencing. And yeah, it's not something I'm enjoying so much, especially when I have to stop at the traffic light, jump to the next one, 0 to 60. It's not something that I'm enjoying so much, because it feels like the car is working quite harder. Then there's a matter of blind spots. It has a big blind spot for me, especially this right hand side mirror. When I'm turning, I'm never comfortable, because it can hide a whole car. Believe me, it's so small, but it can hide a whole car. And because I like sitting low and laid back a bit, that's why I'm comfortable. I'm struggling to find a position that will allow me to sit in a way that I'm comfortable and still be able to see beyond this mirror. Because when I was turning, I was not comfortable. I have to lean forward. It's understandable, because maybe it's my sitting position as well. I can take the seat up and be able to see properly outside. But because of the way I'm sitting, it was creating a big blind spot for me. Otherwise, something that alleviated some of the problems that I have in town is the steering wheel modes that they added in here. They have sport, they have normal, and they have comfort. When you have it in comfort, it doesn't necessarily swing to the left and right as quick as it does on sport. Someone might say it feels heavy, but I enjoyed it on sport, because you can at least get it out of the circle easier. You know, when you're pointing this way, it can easily just point. It's not overly sporty, but it's okay compared to when it's on normal and on comfort. And I love that about it, because they give you a choice to say, if you're feeling like it's too heavy, at least loosen it up by taking it to comfort or to normal. But a lot of things felt okay, especially when it comes to the comfort level, suspension, the insulation in town. As much as on the highway, the insulation actually is not that great. The wind noise is quite a lot. I think it's because of this angular shape in front. Because of that, it creates a lot of wind noise coming from the mirrors, and I can feel it by the windscreen as well. But when I play the sound system, luckily it manages to tone down the external noises. As much as the sound system, no, it's a no for me. I explained a little bit of it in the video that I've done on the night drive. You can check it. I did the test, sound system test in there. You can check it out as well. But because everything was almost normal, we took it to the gravel road to see then how it will handle the gravel road. Okay, you can hear now that we are in a totally different world. And I asked myself whether I should turn back when I started getting on the gravel road, because I drove this before shooting, like for about 4 or 5 minutes or so. And yeah, I kept asking myself if I should turn back. Then I stopped to look around, and I realized that this rear view mirror actually is the one that is making a lot of rattling. I don't think it's well screwed together. I don't know if it's unique to this particular unit, which I hope it is, but it's the one that is making a lot of noise in the cabin. As much as there's a lot of plastics in here, hard plastics and so on, they are feeling a little bit durable, but they contribute a lot to the rattling as well. Again, that boot, what do they call that thing? The cover at the back, the one that is creating privacy on the boot inside, it's not fitting in tightly where you are putting it to cover the stuff in the boot. And as well, the boot as well, the door at the back, it's also rattling just a bit, which is something I spoke about in the EcoSport as well. Talking about the EcoSport, remember in the beginning I did say I brought the EcoSport here as well, which is something that I can compare it with this one because they're falling into the same segment. I can't use something like a Ranger or something because I expect totally different things from these cars. So with the EcoSport, I felt that the rattling, everything in the cabin, it feels much more comfortable than what I'm feeling right now, because in here I get scared that I hope the car is not falling apart because of the rattles. But understanding where they're coming from is where I managed to quiet the noises that were coming inside the ear, to just say, you know what, listen to the car and don't focus just on the plastics that are rattling, but listen to the car. And if I was to compare this with the EcoSport, I would feel that this one, when it comes to being much more composed and not just flying around and sliding like the tail and so on, this is much more composed. I can do high speed in here and feel much more composed, like it feels like it's hugging the road much more than the EcoSport. But it's not near comfortable, because the EcoSport, as much as it has hard plastics here and there, the choice of materials, especially on the dashboard, it's something that helps it a lot to actually not rattle a lot. So you feel like when you're in the EcoSport, you are more comfortable on the gravel road than when you are in this one, because you can hear it's rattling. But when it finds a ground that is not necessarily too bumpy, it settles down just a bit, but still it's not as comfortable, because I can feel the road noise. I can feel it more as well, because I've already spoken about the wind noise that is coming in. Obviously the noises that are coming from outside as well, it contributes to what you're feeling in the cabin, and because of that, it's not creating a comfortable drive on the gravel. Get this, the way it drives, the steering wheel, the way it feels when you're changing gears, when you're driving it, the way it feels like it can take the gravel road. It feels much more composed and not just moving left to right as if you have to hold on for dear life or so. But In the cabin, it doesn't feel like that at all. You really need to listen to this car and what the input that you're getting from it, like the feedback that you're getting from it on the wheels coming into the cabin to say it can actually manage the gravel. But the plastics, the body panel, everything around it, it doesn't feel like it can handle the gravel for much longer than the EcoSport can. But if I was to summarize the driving experience in here, I'd say it's something that for someone who wants to get a car that they're going to be driving every day and do some open roads driving, this is probably the best, especially with the engine and the transmission pairing. I haven't met one in this class that drives like it does. The way it delivers the power in here, it's quite amazing. It punches. This engine is punching. I'm talking about the EcoSport, which I've driven quite recently. I'm talking about the Tiggo 4 Pro, the Kia Sonet, Toyota Urban Cruiser. I'm talking about Hyundai Venue, Vitara Brezza as well from Suzuki. There's quite a lot. I mean, Renault Kaiga as well. I can throw in a Jolion because of the pricing as well. I don't think any of them would be delivering the power like it does. The Tiggo 4 Pro is almost close, but this diesel engine just does it better. I excluded VW in this because of the price point, but I know that they have this 1.4, 1.5 liter, 110 kilowatts that it's actually very punchy, but you're going to pay a lot of money for that one. So I excluded it from this. And when I'm thinking about the competition, I'm thinking it's just priced within, around, because it starts at around 250,000 for the lower spec W4, and you're going to pay 356,000 for this one. And when I'm thinking about the stuff that you get, especially the safety element of it, it's quite amazing. I mean, this was rated 5 stars at Global NCAP. Mahindra is even telling you that it's the safest car in Africa. That's how they actually pushed it, because of the rating that it got, which is not a lie, because the rating is quite high. In this segment, it's not easy to actually get 5 stars. I mean, when I'm thinking about the safety features that you get in here, 7 airbags, I think it's class leading. I don't think there is one that has 7. I think others are at 6 at the top spec level. And the lower spec in here, it's 2 airbags, by the way, but the top spec W8, the one that we are in right now, 7 airbags. You get front and rear parking sensors as well. You get disc brakes all around. Normally you'll get drums from others at the back, and then electronic stability control as well. When parked, it can tell you that you need to be careful because maybe your tires are looking this way or that way. I love that feature as well. And looking at the competition overall, thinking about the things that might throw it off from the competition, I think the biggest thing is because it's only offered in manual across the range. There is no automatic. And people might feel like, going to do the hard work, I can't. Regardless of the power and everything else, the features and so on. That's one thing that it might struggle on. And another thing is the boot. I think it probably has one of the smallest boots. I'm not sure, but based on my assessment, it's probably the smallest. It's around 250 something, 57 I think liters. And when I'm looking at the boot itself, the shape and everything, it just looks small. Luckily, you get a full size spare wheel. It just comes with the the steel rim, and not necessarily the rim that you're seeing outside. But when it comes to the safety features, the engine performance and the fuel consumption, and the fact that some people do love diesel and most of them don't have diesel variants, this will probably edge the competition in that area. But because these are urban cars, like small SUVs, looks matter for a lot of people. And when I'm looking at it from the exterior point of view, looking at it in front, I like it. I'm a sucker for boxy shapes. And because of this angular shape that it has, it's something that it just impresses me just by looking at it in front, because the way they shape the DRLs as well, they are like square, like creating a square like in front, and I love that so much. As well, I like everything around it, like the grill, the way they've done it. It's not overly cooked, it just looks okay. Then to the side, I think they fought a lot to make it a sub 4 meter, because I know it's a thing in the automotive industry to have a car that is like less than 4 meters. And because of that, I feel like at the back, man, they cut it too early, man. It looks a little bit flat from where I'm looking at it. The side profile of it, there's something that is not as comfortable, because its height is like 1.6 meters, and now it looks like it's too high for the length of it, and it creates some discomfort for me in terms of that. But the visual appeal is not that off, especially looking at the rims here. These are nice 17-inch rims, and looking at the pillars as well, by the windows as well, this black, they blacked it out a bit. And when you get these privacy glasses, like, it creates that, like, it's a two-tone kind of a thing, but it's not necessarily two-tone, but it adds to the appeal as well. Looking at it from the back, wow, the design of the LEDs, I'm in love with it. I can't complain about that. I mean, when I'm looking at it straight at the rear, right, I'm enjoying like looking at it, especially when the lights are on and it's just having this LED effect. I love that about it. Just that the side profile, but like the rear and the front, I'm okay with it. Coming inside, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of this interior, and it's because of the panels and the choice of materials. I think if I'm looking at the door on the side, they came all right, because this panel looks expensive. It looks nice. It feels nice as well. To touch these buttons to open windows, it feels nice. They look okay, because the piano black as well that is being used here. But when I turn to the steering wheel, which feels nice, by the way, with this leather wrap steering wheel, but looking at this gray, like silver, like plastic panels, I'd rather have piano black, man. I understand that they're saying, hey, long term it's going to be scratchy and so on, but I'd rather have it than this. This doesn't look particularly expensive or premium. It looks a little bit on the cheap side, and I understand it's already on budget, but piano black doesn't cost much. It doesn't change much in terms of cost. I think it was going to add more to the appeal. Looking at the screen as well, the layout of the dash, especially the center console here, these buttons, the red ones, then they illuminate red or orange at night. No, I am not a fan of that. Then the LCD screen as well, the main one here, it's giving me old vibes, because of the way that it's like engraved inside this black plastic on the side. The way it looks, it's not particularly pleasing to the eye. I prefer something that is plush. I've said this before when I did my Haval H2, to say, it doesn't look pleasing because of the buttons and the screen. And it's the same here. The LCD as well, I complain a lot about this, because once you open the sunroof, seeing this during the day is going to be difficult, because it's like a laptop kind of a screen, and it creates that effect that one person is seeing properly, one is not. And because of that, when you're driving during the day, it's not necessarily that nice to actually operate it, because you're not seeing properly. But when you turn around and look at the seats, look at the simplicity of them, the design there of the leather, the stitching as well, on the armrest as well, in front and the rear as well, there's an armrest. Those things do add to the visual appeal. I mean, when you face up and look at the sunroof as well, I mean, the sunroof is always going to add to some visual appeal, and that created some element of balance in terms of the things that were bothering me with the interior. At least when I'm looking at where I'm sitting and where my hands are, it looks rather appealing. And you get a host of features as well. It's not just a shell of a car. It comes with some features that are interesting for this segment. Keyless entry, heated mirrors outside, auto headlights, auto wipers, auto dimming rearview mirror, overspeeding chimes. It can recognize some traffic signs, but not necessarily like that. Through the map, where it knows that this is a 60 zone, it can start telling you that you're overspeeding and so on. It gives you this welcome chimes and leaving chimes. Can even tell you that, okay, please check the sunroof, so that you know it's a rainy season now and you don't want to find yourself in trouble when you left the sunroof open. Then the system as well in here, it runs on Android. It's not necessarily that you're just only getting the Android Auto and CarPlay, which are here as well. Wireless Android Auto, I didn't try the CarPlay because I don't have the iPhone, but it works so well. It's probably one that I enjoyed using this wireless because it was not cutting. I've used others before that were just cutting all the time, but this one uses Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connectivity on the phone, which created a stable connection that I didn't find myself having to use the cable. And now this system, because it's an Android system, I just didn't go through with it and use my own Gmail account to actually log in and download other stuff. But I think it can download more than it has now. It has like, I think 64 gigabytes. And I saw that you can use YouTube here. You can watch videos even when driving. You have the settings where you can say you can watch videos when driving or not, which was nice to see because I could watch my videos on this system as well. Like I said, I didn't log in with my own account to check things like Netflix and so on because this is not my car. What if then my account remains in here even after I delete it? I'm not sure. And when you turn down to the aircon as well, you can see that it's automated, it's dual as well. You can be on 28 degrees Celsius on this side and the other one is on 20 and no one is complaining. And when it comes to the practicality overall inside, there's enough spaces to put everything. Economically, I didn't find myself complaining in terms of reaching for the bottles or anything that is on the cup holders. At the rear as well, there are cup holders. The door bins are fine. There's this space just above the glove box here that you can put other stuff. I don't know what. But otherwise, the wheelbase is around 2.6 meters. Leg room at the rear, it's okay for someone like me who's like 1.7, and then the headroom as well. I've already explained that the height is quite high. I can't complain about that at all. The boot space, I've already complained about it. It's really the downside of it when it comes to the practicality of this car. Then the after sales for this car is different because when you get in the lower spec W4, you're getting 3 year or 50,000 kilometer service plan. But the warranty is the same as this one, which is 5 year or 150,000 kilometers. The service plan on W6 and W8, you get 5 year or 90,000 kilometer service plan. But if I was to ask myself the same question again, and whether my perspective has changed on Mahindra, I'd say it really did. Because this car is offering so much, especially for the price point. The way it drives has changed a lot of how I see this and how I'm going to be looking at Mahindra going forward. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate that you are here with me. I am out.